With the official line from Donald Trump. It's a powerful statement, right? Iran's military is gone, and their navy is defeated. That's a declaration of total victory. It's meant to tell the world that the United States has all the power, all the leverage in any talk with Iran. But was that the hand they were actually playing? And that's the big question here, isn't it? Because according to our source material, what actually went down behind closed doors in Islamabad tells let's just say, a radically different story. So let's break this down by looking at the two competing narratives that came out of this whole situation, the public rhetoric versus the reported reality. Okay, so on one side, you have the official story. Iran is beaten, their military is gone, and the U.S. is calling all the shots. But on the other side, you have this claim from the source material that the administration completely folded, giving in to what Iran wanted before anyone even sat down at the table. So how could both of these things be true? What's the basis for such a huge claim? Well, the whole thing kicks off at what's being called the Islamabad Standoff. The plan was to hold these major talks in Pakistan, and the U.S. showed up ready to lay down the law. And I mean, they came prepared. The American team had a whole 10-point plan written up, ready to go. The expectation was crystal clear. We're here to dictate the terms, not to have a debate. But then Iran made a huge power play. The U.S. delegation is in Pakistan, waiting, and the Iranian delegation, they just don't show up. They literally don't get on the plane. Instead, they send a message with a list of non-negotiable demands that had to be met before they'd even think about coming to the meeting. So what was the price of admission? What did it cost just to get them in the room for a conversation? It really came down to two major things. First, they demanded a total ceasefire in Lebanon. And second, they wanted billions, with a B, billions of dollars in blocked Iranian assets to be unfrozen and released. And these weren't starting points for a negotiation, they were ultimatums. Now, what's fascinating is how the U.S. reacted at first, at least publicly. Officials like J.D. Vance were basically mocking these demands, reportedly even asking out loud if the Iranian leaders could understand English. So the public tone was total dismissal, almost like it was a joke. But that public laughter pretty quickly changed. Behind the scenes, the administration had a problem. You can't really negotiate with an empty chair. They had to respond. And this is the number that is right at the heart of this entire story. According to the source, somewhere between $8 and $10 billion. That is a truly staggering amount of money. So what happened? The source claims that two things took place before any talks even started. First, President Trump put pressure on for a temporary ceasefire in Lebanon, and second, that massive sum, $8 to $10 billion in frozen Iranian assets, was unblocked. And here is the absolute key to this whole sequence. It was only after those two conditions were met, the ceasefire and the cash, that the Iranian delegation finally got on a plane and flew to Islamabad. The source is essentially saying the negotiation happened before the negotiation. So, with the talks finally happening, the focus shifts to what was going on militarily and economically out on the water. And this is where the public claims and the reported reality just collide head-on. So, you have the claim, Iran has no navy left, defeated, gone. But the reality on the water, a totally different story. The source says Iran's supposedly nimble small navy is effectively in control of the Straits of Hormuz, one of the most critical shipping passages on the entire planet. And this chart just shows you the insane economic impact of that control. On a normal day, something like 160 ships pass through that strait. The traffic right now? Just two ships. That is a virtual shutdown of a vital artery for global trade. So is Iran's military really gone? A quick check of their assets suggests not so much. We're talking about thousands of ballistic missiles still in their arsenal, a huge and fully operational drone fleet, and, of course, the very same small naval vessels that are, right now, squeezing global shipping. This is the reality the U.S. was apparently dealing with. The source really doesn't pull any punches when it sums all this up. It describes this entire sequence of events, from the no-show to the demands to the eventual payment, as a humiliation ritual. The argument is that the U.S. was forced to the table, not from a position of overwhelming strength, but from a position of weakness. And that leaves us with this one final, really pointed question from the source material. It's a question that just slices right through all the political rhetoric and gets to the core of the contradiction here. If the enemy is truly gone, if they're defeated,